Japan, summer is the season of ghost stories, legends of yokai, yurei, and ancient curses afloat with Ubon, Japan's national holiday honoring ancestral spirits occurring in August. Japanese people, and notably the inhabitants of Tokyo, are usually either fans or fearful of the ghosts and their stories alone, as Japan is known for its plague-like curses. Traditional Japanese artwork was one of the main ways in which the phenomena spread. Intricate woodboards painted with haunting spirits or dim-lighted kabuki theaters showing Japanese folk all their fears in the flesh coming alive before their very own eyes. Some ghosts are admittedly silly, like the Ashira Yashiki or the foot-washing mansion story, which is a gigantic, disembodied foot and leg that can smash through ceilings, demanding its inhabitants to be washed clean. If refused, it will stomp the house as well as its people to the ground, therefore being commonly depicted covered completely in blood, as per an ominous memory of a constant refusal. Regardless of the silliest stories, Tokyo is also known for ghost taxis. Similarly described vehicles, or more prominent of all, ghost taxis, have been referenced as a popular ghostly apparition in Japan. But these actually do seem to have a reason as to why, and it is tragic, to say the least, intertwined with a natural disaster. After the Great Eastern Japan earthquake in 2011, stories of ghost taxis began circulating around the affected areas of the consequential deadly tsunami that hit them without a moment's notice except for the land shaking violently on itself, rumbling below their feet. As mentioned before, however, Tokyo has been the center of tales regarding spectral passengers and vehicles since the early times of the rickshaw. One common tale is that of pedestrians hailing taxis and asking the driver to be taken to Aoyama Cemetery. Upon arrival, the taxi driver will state the price, to which fares are famously high in Japan, to find no one on the back seat as he turns around to collect his earnings. As it turns out, the opening of a new subway line in the late 60s brought with it an endless amount of issues to the inhabitants of Tokyo. You see, the new subway line ran directly under the aforementioned cemetery and is rumored to have caused the souls of the deceased buried there to inadvertently ride away on the lines, sent back and forth by the trains, and therefore easily becoming lost. Resurfacing from somewhere in Tokyo, from a subway station, the lost souls are only searching to return to their final resting place, Aoyama Cemetery. The website Japan Travel retells one of the most famous versions of these hauntings, which goes as follows. On a dark and rainy night, a young woman dressed in black mourning clothes got caught in the rain near the entrance of Aoyama Cemetery and hailed a taxi. She had her coat pulled over her head to keep herself dry because she didn't have an umbrella. The driver couldn't get a good look at her face, assuming she was visiting the family grave. In a sad voice, she asked to be taken to an address in an uptown neighborhood. Upon arrival, she said she just wanted to linger a few minutes. The driver couldn't see anything but the silhouette of a young woman staring out of his window. After idling in silence for about 5 minutes, the girl asked to go to another address. When the driver arrived at a beautiful home in an upscale neighborhood, he turned around to collect his fare, but the woman was gone. Only a puddle of rainwater remained where she had been sitting. Perplexed, the driver rang the doorbell and explained his situation to the owner of the house. The money was already prepared on a small table beside the door. He apologized for the inconvenience and said the passenger was his daughter. One rainy night, she was killed by a car while crossing the street on her way to see her boyfriend, although they buried her in the family graveyard at Aoyama Cemetery. For the past 5 years, whenever it rained, she hailed a taxi to visit her fiancé's apartment, and then her family's home. Perhaps Japan's most famous ghost story, Yotsuya Kaida tells the tale of husband and wife, Oiwa and Tamiya. It was written in 1825 as a kabuki play, but it has its roots in historical occurrences and owes some of its fame, also, to a dedicated shrine in Tokyo. The original shrine was destroyed by a fire in 1875 and subsequently moved until 1952, where it was rebuilt in its original location. The shrine is said to have been built as a way to appease her tormented soul and can be visited today still in Yotsuya, Tokyo. Despite the shrine's location, and it being whence you're supposed to pay your respects to Oiwa, her actual grave is located at a temple in Sugamo, Japan. Oiwa and Tamiya most likely did exist, but it seems their story can be seen as an amalgam of several cruel and sensational murders that happened during the early Edo period in history. Now, the legend goes as follows. A wife, poisoned, hurt, betrayed, and then murdered by her unfaithful husband, does pain to haunt the place where it happened forever. Thus goes a plot of Tokyo's most famous ghost tale, the Yotsuya Kaidan, loosely based on Oiwa's pain and Tamiya's extramarital affairs. Oiwa, Tamiya's faithful wife, is slowly poisoned by her husband to death, as he carries out an extra life at his mistress, seeking to eliminate his wife, sweeping her under the rug, as to say, get rid of her permanently. The poison, referred as either a facial cream or poisoned food, eats away at Oiwa's face over time, leaving her scarred and unrecognizable. Because of this, she's commonly depicted with her left eye lopsided and drooping. The events following her poisoning depend on the version of the story and whom is telling it. But as far as it concerns their future, poor Oiwa either accidentally slices open her own throat with a sword as she curses her husband Tamiya, bleeding to death, or Oiwa is killed by her husband, poisoned, but disguised as to look if she had died of natural causes. Regardless of her untimely fate, she returns to haunt him, no matter the version. Once everything is done and buried, including Oiwa, Tamiya arranges to marry his beloved mistress. When he goes to lift the veil of his new bride at the day of the ceremony, Oiwa's face appears instead. As per his family's fame and Japanese traditional wedding attire, Tamiya carried with him a sword. Terrified of Oiwa's reappearance and ghastly face, he slashed at her with his weapon, and as he did so, the apparition was gone, replaced by Tamiya's newly wedded wife, whom he had just killed. In the end, he murders both wives, ending alone and pained by the repercussions of his messed up and manipulative endeavors until the end of his life. Oiwa, with her long black hair and scarred left eye, became beloved by the people who felt empathy towards her pain. So famous she became, in fact, that she is the main inspiration for Sadako's character in The Ring. To this day, film crew and theater troops bringing the story to life head over to Oiwa's grave before production to ask for permission so she doesn't come back to haunt them too. Oiwa is as much of a remembrance of mistreated women and wives as much as Saint Rita is to the Catholic Church. The difference lies in the way the stories were carried, and due to that, if you ever see yourself visiting Tokyo, pay your respects to Oiwa not out of fear, but genuine respect, from all the pain she and other women had to endure under similar circumstances, living unfair lives and, sometimes, murderous ends that never see the day of life, forever remaining a secret and a legend to anyone other than those who commit those acts of crime. Although never short of ghost stories and mysteries, Tokyo in Japan is a vibrant city of color and life that we encourage you to visit for those who can and for those who yet can't. Keep learning about this wonderful and deeply historical country, as it will enrich your visit further. Thank you, and don't forget to subscribe.